I'm Matt Landau, and this is Unlocked, Season 6, Magic Zones. This episode's brought to you by Point Central, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. Today we're talking with Anthony Gantt, the founder of At Ease Rentals, which is a listing site for military members by military members, specializing in homes that are pre-approved to meet federal travel regulation, which means that when you book for official reimbursable stays with Anthony, they'll guarantee your travel voucher will be approved, or they'll refund you the money themselves. In this interview, Anthony and I talk about why the vacation rental sector is so ripe for specialization, how he found his specialty niche by traveling with his family, plus some of the low-hanging niches that we think are ripe for the picking, and the role that these kinds of niche vacation rental guests play on local communities. Let's do this. Anthony, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you, Matt?
I'm great. How are you? Are you sitting in boot camp?
I am right now sitting in boot camp at the WeWork, making sure that we are able to communicate with each other effectively and clearly.
Is there anything you would rather be doing with your Friday afternoon than talking vacation rental shop with a fellow vacation rental nerd?
Having more people book off of At Ease with vacation rental managers and hosts that are on my platform.
Hey, well, maybe we can kill two birds with one stone here. Anthony, you and I have been in touch now for a little while, but it was last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, that on our interview with Carl Shepard, you got a pretty baller shout out. Did you hear it?
I did. It was pretty amazing, and I got to thank Carl for that. It was surreal, and he's one of the legends in the space that I consider a legend. So it's pretty awesome hearing him talk about At Ease and myself and me.
Let's play that for people real quick.
I see a future where there are going to be websites and organizing principles that let like-minded homeowners group together. There's one that I'm aware of that helps the military families travel. It's a great concept. And until I talked to Anthony, I didn't realize how hard that was. Well, he's created a niche product for that marketplace. Now, owners who want to think about the intersection there of fiercely independent red state owners who can be offered the opportunity to provide their home to American soldiers. Son of a bitch, is that not a great idea?
So that was a pretty remarkable plug coming from a pretty brilliant guy. And for those who don't know At Ease, it provides active duty members and their families with short-term rentals that have been pre-approved and that you can fully refund. Like there's no hassle in getting the reimbursement as a military member. Can you explain a little bit more broadly about the business, just to those who haven't heard of it before?
Yeah, absolutely. You did a very great job with doing so. So the military relocates service members every 2 or 3 years. And when we relocate, we find ourselves in this period of homeless or without home. And while we're without home, we're looking for a place to stay temporarily until either base housing comes available or until something in the area comes available, i.e. I'm closing on a house or I can move into a place that I'm renting with a lease and whatnot. So you're pretty much like at the whims of whatever is available. And for the most part, a lot of us check into hotels. Well, I said, I'm not doing that because I have a family of 8, me, my wife, and 6 kids. And it was like, hotels just don't cut it. But I know that there's this thing called the vacation rental industry that does. So I'm going to go ahead and book one off one of the popular booking sites. And I did so only to find out that it wasn't allowed. Now, it's the government. So I was like, the government makes sense with everything it does. So how could vacation rentals not be allowed? And again, that was me being funny because we're talking about the government. So it totally makes sense why it's not allowed because, like I said, we're dealing with a huge entity where there's a lot of bureaucracy in place. But the bureaucracy that's in place is special because what they're saying is we want to guarantee that the places people are staying at are safe and in a safe neighborhood, and that at the end of the day, if we have to change their dates because it's a dynamic type of travel, that the reimbursements will be honored because we're the government and nobody keeps our money. We take your money, but nobody keeps our money. So that's basically how it happened.
And the traditional vacation rental market is just so new and weird that there would be no way for them to qualify that otherwise, right?
Right. And then if you look at a lot of the traditional marketplaces that host vacation rentals right now, they're very low touch and high tech, meaning they don't really get involved too much. If a person says they have a place to host, then the platforms believe them. And the military and the government at large is saying, well, we need a little bit more than that, because you can go to a hotel and say, hey, this is a hotel. I know it's a hotel. It's been inspected, certified, verified by other people that say it's a hotel. But you really can't do anything in the vacation rental industry, to your case in point, that it seems like a relatively new industry. I like to say as old as this guy who was born in a manger and people came to give him some gifts because they saw a North Star. But in terms of newness for us in our era of life as people, it's a very new space where people are like, oh my God, what's going on? What is this thing called a vacation rental? How does it work? That's my voice that I hear people in the government saying.
I hear that voice all the time as well. And for folks who don't understand it, this is basically like a miniature specialized version of Airbnb. It's a listing site, but it's designed specifically for people from this community, right? That's how a way for non-industry insiders to understand it.
Absolutely. It's a booking place, like you said, like a small Airbnb for military and federal employees who want to stay in your vacation rental or your alternative accommodation.
So listeners, if you haven't already gone and signed up, satisfy one of Anthony's desires for his Friday afternoon and sign up. It's very unusual that we'll do a blatant plug for a business at the beginning of a podcast, but there's a reason for it today. Because Anthony, as Carl so eloquently put it, has carved out this incredible niche for himself and his guests and his property owners who are working together. And it's this triple win of sorts in which he's not competing necessarily with the mainstream listing sites, but rather he's off on the side, speaking only to his group of travelers. And Anthony, I'm hoping you can share with folks a little bit more about your first foray into vacation rentals as a family. Like, what was the pain when you first booked that vacation rental? And how did that pain help you understand that there might be like a better way?
So the pain was we were staying in a hotel in Virginia, and we had to put 2 chairs together for my 6-year-old, 7-year-old to sleep on. And that was the extended stay. And we were supposed to stay there for 10 days. And we said, screw this, let's stay here for 2 days, check out early, go to your mother's house in New York. So we drove up the road and stayed there for a few days. And we said, when we moved to Texas, there's no way that we're staying in a hotel.
And your kids probably like, no more 2 chairs, please.
No more 2 chairs. And that's where we got into, like, this is a pain point for military families, not as large as mine, but just families in general who are relocating every so often. It's not fun to be in a hotel for anything beyond 3 or 4 days, especially if you're not on a vacation or if you're with kids. But the real pain point, Matt, that came on to us was when I turned in my travel voucher to find out that it was not allowed and that I had broken a rule.
Folks, this idea is so great it deserves a signpost. It's one of the best ways to carve out your sweet spot or magic zone. Because our industry's so new, a lot of people are surprised to learn that if your needs as an individual or a family or a particular kind of group, if they're not being met when you're trying to book your travel plans, chances are they're not being met for a much larger segment just like you.
So $1,200, there you go. And I was pretty upset. I was livid because I was like, are you serious? I used the Uber in DC and you're telling me I can't use a vacation rental? And I was like, yes, sir. And I was like, no. Listen to what I said. I used a Uber and a Lyft, and I was reimbursed. I didn't know who the guy was that was driving. I didn't know if it was his car. I didn't know if the car was registered or stolen or if he even had insurance or didn't. But I got in that Uber. It was safe. And you guys reimbursed me. Not them, but the government at large. But you're telling me the house that I stayed in that hasn't moved for the last 35 years isn't safe? It makes no sense.
That poor customer service person was like, "You're so right."
They were, because they're like, sir, I don't make the rules. I was like, I know, I'm venting to you.
Yeah.
You just happen to be that person. So that was where I said, okay, I know me and 275 other folks just moved from one location, and this is happening across the entire globe, about 500,000 people every year. How many other people are having this issue? And I sent out a survey. It's like, hey guys, who has an issue where this sucks? And the survey was like, it sucks, it sucks, it sucks, it sucks. It's not too bad. It's just me and my wife. It sucks, it sucks, it sucks, it sucks.
So you literally had that list. That was what, a group of people who were in your in your group that were all relocating at the same time. You had this little survey that was verifying that indeed everybody agrees this sucks. And you sent it out what, using like Survey Monkey or something?
No, man, I went real low. I was like, hey, I'm gonna make a survey with Google. I can't remember what's Google Forms.
Google Form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got all you guys' email, free 99, send it out and said, all right, military folks, I need some answers. And then I went to Facebook groups and I posted on some Facebook groups that we have that talk about relocating. And I was like, people, fill this out. I need to understand how this is broken and where we can fix it. And they said, okay.
And I absolutely love this for anybody who's listening, who's thinking about maybe their own niche, is you don't need a gazillion people. You just need a handful of people who have what you believe to be the perfect profile. And can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of quality or focus in that sense when it comes to carving out your own niche versus thinking that you've got to have a gazillion people inquiring all the time?
Absolutely. The quality comes into making sure that this is a pain point for the particular set of folks that you're trying to solve this problem for, because they're going to be able to give you some answers that you didn't anticipate, and they're also going to be able to verify some assumptions that you have or had. If you go out and try to talk to too many people, now you're playing a numbers game, where it's like some of those apps where you're just swiping right, swiping left, and you're not really looking for a relationship, right? So with the niche and you're trying to find that particular group of folks, you want to have quality so that you can establish those relationships so that they'll come back to you more frequently whenever they have that same pain point, or knowing that you solved that pain point for them before, that they'll consider you again. And I like to, man, I sent this in an email. It's like a lot of people worry about, well, if I get in this space, there's so many people already in the space. But if you ever walk into the grocery store in the bread aisle and see how many different loaves of bread that is, then you'll know that there's something for everyone. You just have to be able to address that for those people who like the type of bread that you're making.
That is eerily relevant. I literally was in the bread aisle this afternoon. It probably took me like 10 minutes to get some hot dog buns that didn't have egg in them. And there was just like many other options, and most of them had some dairy, and I'm allergic. So in the end, I found my niche, I suppose. Got my hot dog buns.
Yes, you did. You got your hot dog buns. And that's because someone else probably is allergic to dairy. And they said, I like hot dogs, but I can't eat any buns. So they were just eating hot dogs without the buns. And they're like, I don't want to be that person without a bun.
Okay, I'm nominating that as the best live quote of the Unlocked podcast in history.
I like hot dogs.
Anthony, talk to me about, so you had the same profile as all these people, but what about for folks who are maybe don't have the exact same profile from the niche that they are looking to address? You actually went and experimented as a property manager. You went out into the field and got your hands dirty. Is this something that pretty much anybody can do, surround themselves with the niche in order to understand it better?
I think so. I did it because I'm one of those folks who's like, I don't only want to say I know that this is a problem. I want to say I experienced the problem with you. So that's why I started to dilly dabble in the property management side of the house, because what I want to do is around my niche, which is military, establish things around military bases to see if it would be an optimal solution for those who I'm going out to talk to, those host and vacation rental management companies, and say, hey, I can help you with diversifying your channels and helping increase your revenues if you add some inventory here. Or if you already have inventory here, now list it with me. I think other folks can do the same thing by looking at where their particular community likes to go and travel to. So, and to your point with like people identifying their particular niche, what I'll use as an example is families who have kids in different type of competitive sports where they travel from city to city and state to state. That's a niche, right? And knowing where these parks are that the kids are going to, knowing where these competitions are going to be at, you can either one, get your hands dirty and start renting some properties out to your own community, or you can get your hands dirty and going and talking to these management companies and these hosts in those areas to help support your niche whenever they're coming to town for an event.
And I like to think that part of identifying your niche is identifying what's not your niche. Like sometimes that's another way of going about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I noticed on your pre-inspection onboarding form, which is the Google form, I noticed you're sticking with your favorite there, Google Forms, that property managers are using to pre-qualify at ease. And I noticed you've got questions like where are the smoke detectors, where are the carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, some questions that maybe an average vacation rental professional may not have even thought of before. Is this part of the niche qualifying process, ensuring that these homeowners are doing the things that matter to your guests?
Absolutely. And safety is important to me because the guest that I'm serving is my community. They're me. So I'm like, if you don't care enough about answering these four little questions or whatever it is that I have, then you don't really care about wanting to host them. And that's okay. Everybody's not going to be the right person for you. It's like if we look at this type of friends we have, you don't have friends from any and everywhere and anybody. You're very selective about your friends. And if you're in a niche, you want to make sure that you are addressing that with the right type of people on the supply side as well as the demand side.
I know you have a unique philosophy on connecting like-minded people, and I'd like to know what was the tactic there? Like you've got this idea, you maybe know the kinds of guests, you maybe know the kinds of homeowners. How do you actually do that?
For me, I go out and talk to people who are more patriotic. You can look at some of the things that they do, follow them on some of their listings on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and just try to see who is pro military or pro my niche. And as I see that and they're in the vacation rental space, I say, hey, it looked like will be a great opportunity for us to work together. Here's what I'm presenting. And I think others can do the same thing.
Let's just run through a little example here. Like if you were to make a new niche, let's use an example, whatever you might choose, something you've observed. How would you go about finding the people who are in that niche?
So let's use something that came to my attention a little ago, which was people who have the need for having certain amenities inside the house because they may have some kind of disability or some kind of injury that prevents them from moving about freely. So what I would do is one, talk to those folks and see where they like traveling to more frequently and why they like traveling to that space. And then I'll start doing research on folks who have those type of houses or inventory inside of their locations. So I'll go to the popular booking sites like I do, the Airbnbs and the VRBOs and the booking.coms. And they have a cool option on those sites is like talk to the host. So I asked the host, hey, are you a patriot? Or in this case, I was like, hey, does your home support, does it have a wheelchair ramp or does it have a bar inside the shower or something of that nature to figure out who's the right person? And it's a lot of work that up front, but it starts to help you identify who are those folks and what type of houses or type of individuals will be the right person for you, which goes back to the question about quality over quantity. Because when you're in a niche, you're not looking for everybody or anybody. You're looking for a specific type of individual or individuals that's going to help serve the pain point which you're trying to solve.
So if you're in the accessible niche that we just described, or maybe environmentally conscious niche, which is another one that I absolutely love, or any special interest or lifestyle niche that you're thinking about, are you kind of trying to validate your instincts that this is a good business, whether it's acquiring a new property, purchasing a property, managing new properties, opening a listing site like you did, are you looking for validation in these little one-on-one requests? Are you looking for answers that prove that you're onto something? And maybe are you open if the answers aren't what you wanted to hear?
You have to be. That'll help you save a lot of money from building something out, or like you said, buying a property or building a site. Hold on, I was waiting for the lady with the mop to stop moving.
It sounded almost like you jumped into a laundry basket and you were heading down the WeWork hall.
No, she just came out with her mop bucket and whatnot.
This is a vacation rental podcast, and never do we have one interview that is not interrupted by something housekeeping or maintenance related.
I bet. So I think getting that validation is important, Matt, because it helps you identify if it's going to work. And it, like I said, it helps address some of the assumptions that you may have, and then it might bring up some things that you didn't consider. So when you're in a niche, you have to be a little bit more focused. You can't, this is what I hear from a lot of would-be investors, is like, you got to go fast, Anthony. You got to go fast. You got to break things fast. I was like, but if I break it, it may never come back because I'm in a niche, right?
Oh my
It's
God,
like,
how much I love that. You should tell Brian Chesky that.
oh, well, he's going for everybody, anybody, right? So it makes sense for him to go fast and break things. But for us smaller niche players, it's like, I can't go fast because once I break it, people like, I don't like you. You broke it. It's like, if you look at some of the cars that never came back into the industry because it sucked, I don't want to be those cars.
Over the last few years, a lot of people have equated smart home automation with technological sophistication and comfort and efficiency. However, few have thought of it as an avenue for environmentalism. Point Central is the leader in smart home automation in the vacation rental sector, and controlling your properties from a mobile device means reduced wasted energy on heating and cooling, smarter usage of lighting and appliances, and fewer trips back and forth. In fact, studies have argued that a smart home can bring down CO2 emissions by as much as 13%. Head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB to sign up for a demo. They're now taking on managers with less than 25 properties, which gives all of us the excuse to make a little bit of green. And Breezeway, a property care and operations platform whose founder, Jeremiah Gall, was on our podcast explaining the following very powerful strategic advice.
I think it should be clear to the guest a lot of the work that goes into preparing this property. I think it should be clear to the owners in particular. I think owners are missing an appreciation for a lot of the work that managers do to actually create this experience. And I think owners need to understand that more, and that if managers, this is part of our mission at Breezeway, which is if we can help managers more transparently demonstrate to the owners the amount of work and the touches on the property that they do, the preventative maintenance, the asset protection, all the work that's going into property care, they should be able to charge more for those services because it's indispensable. You cannot provide that experience unless that owner themselves is dedicated to self-managing their property in a really highly detailed manner.
If that resonates with you, head over to breezeway.io/VRMB. When you sign up there, you'll get a free implementation service, which is valued at $1,000. Let's get back into it. So what I love about choosing the opposite of scale, of choosing to do things slowly and properly, is that it does have a different kind of impact on the community in which you operate. And short-term rentals get a lot of flack for breaking things, literally and figuratively. A lot of it falls under the Airbnb umbrella, but a lot of complaints don't care where the property was listed. They just know that somebody down the street is making a mess. Is there something that you think about the niche market, this opportunity that an independent owner or manager has today to align themselves with one of these very particular niches? Is there something about that you see as more sustainable?
Yes, you hit it on the head. Niches don't primarily have to worry about the ruckus and the partying crowd, right? Like you said, the accessibility, the environmental friendly, the military community. These are usually people who are traveling for travel, and they're looking for somewhere to stay, to relax, to kick up their feet, or to do some business because they're there for an extended period of time. So they're not just the one-offs where it's like, hey, I'm coming in because we're having a party and we want to rent a house, and we can go to this site and book a house and we're going to rent it. So I think the niches bring more advocacy to the short-term rental and vacation rental industry, because the type of guests that you're bringing in are more responsible guests, are more reputable guests who aren't 99% of the time going to be the ones that cause those issues, like you said, where it's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem.
Yeah, like specialist small businesses in general have a much more kind of predictable kind of customer, because that person has really seeked them out. They're aligned with whatever values. They have done their research. They respect the small business that they're interacting with, and vice versa. The business is going to do them well. And I think that really does describe a lot of vacation rental professionals. And it goes along the line of your toilet paper correlation, right? Share that with folks. Just make sure that we can include both hot dogs and toilet paper in one conversation.
That was funny. I don't know where it came from. It just made me think of toilet paper.
That's okay. We're all adults here.
The correlation. Let me see how I can put this without. I want to be PG. Okay. So quality over quantity when we talk about niches. And I was going to switch it from toilet paper, but I'm glad you brought. I was going to say G5s versus Spirit Air. But with the toilet tissue, it's a reason when you go out to a place that's like just serving hot dogs and hamburgers that you kind of wait till you go home, because you're like, the toilet tissue quality is not that good. But if you're going to this high-end steakhouse and you have to go to the bathroom, you say, I'll risk it because if this place is nice, the ambiance is a beautiful place. Yeah. I'm going to risk and assume that the tissue quality in there is going to be very friendly to my rear end. And people might think toilet tissue is not that important, but we saw back in March of 2020, toilet tissue was the number one priority of most people. So if you're looking at quality over quantity, just remember, if you were one of those people standing in line, because this is a vacation rental industry podcast, and I know a lot of the people listening were standing in line to get that toilet tissue for their guests, then you understand the quality over quantity, because you didn't want those 1-star reviews because you were having one ply out that rough paper towel for tissue in the bathroom when your guests were coming.
Well put. When you look at the future of this industry, and specifically the future travel population, it's very different from the snapshot that has been staying in vacation rentals for the past 10, 20 years that I think a lot of our veteran owners and managers are very familiar with. What do you think about the future traveling public looks like? And how is that going to be different in terms of what they choose as their lodging?
I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for vacation rental host and management companies, especially the ones who offer houses where multiple people can come in at once. The last year has been hard on a lot of people because by nature, we love other people and we need to have that type of social interaction with others. But outside of that, since I have so many kids and one is getting accepted to colleges, we had to sit down and talk to her like, this may be the last time that you're going to be at home with the family. And when you grow up for 18 years surrounded about other individuals, you don't understand how important that is in your life until you move out and you're on your own, which we saw in the last year with the whole pandemic. So vacation rentals have answered that void that most people didn't know they had when they moved out. It allowed families to go into homes and locations to come together and experience that bond that they didn't know they were missing. So I think since people are more aware of the necessity of being amongst their family members and embracing what's important, which is time with those you love, the space that's going to accommodate that more than others is going to be that vacation rental industry space. Um, those abilities to go and rent a home or a mansion or whatnot to bring people together and just experience each other in that one place.
And the same is probably true about our elected officials, that it's not necessarily the 75-year-old white dude who's making the decisions. Times are changing and different regulations should reflect that, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of younger folks are getting elected to different positions because they're tired of being bystanders. And that's a great thing because a lot of those folks who are generation, the millennials and the Zs and everything that comes after that, they are used to going on their mobile device and picking a place to stay that's off of one of the vacation rental booking sites. So it doesn't make sense to them in the future when they're in that seat to make changes to regulation and whatnot laws, that this should be a part of the conversation, right? No longer should you just be stuck to saying, hey, this building that's off of the interstate is the only place you can stay because they've lobbied appropriately to make sure that the rules and regulations stay that way. I think it should be a diversification of accommodations, allowing you to stay where you want to. And since those young folks are getting elected and into these positions, they're going to be the ones to make those changes. So for the folks that are listening that have one property under management or several hundred properties under management, I think you need to see those young officials that are those young folks who are getting elected into these positions and have them be your advocates and those voices within the system to help make the changes and updates to a lot of the regulations to help foster vacation rentals and help the short-term rental industry space become something that's not seen as a bad player or a bad thing to do.
And Anthony, you and I have been on a number of calls together talking about diversity, equality, and inclusive techniques that we can use to make our industry more accurately reflective of the broader travel public. Is there anything that you've kind of want to share with people, just help them see in terms of from a business perspective, like what does this whole world of opportunity actually look like?
It looks like trillions of dollars, to be frank with you, Matt. One of the conversations we talked during those calls was by opening up your business to other people who don't look like you, who don't speak like you, who don't eat what you eat, you add a whole lot of opportunity to make a lot more money. What I think people should do is not care about the individual in terms of like what they are, who they are. You want to make sure that you verify and validate the type of traveler that's coming in so they don't wreck your place. But as long as they're paying in some type of currency that's going to help your coffers increase, then by all means, you should be opening up your location to those individuals, whether they are people who need access to accessibleness, energy, environment conscious, whether they're LGBT, whether they're Black, brown, Hispanic, Asian, what have you. If these are folks who are going to come in and take care of that property and still pay you while they stay there, by all means, you need to be opening that property up and that your space to those individuals. But for those people who don't and they have those biases, that's more opportunity for folks like us.
I think it was you who sent me the Airbnb filings, and you had like found this very particular statement. Do you remember?
It wasn't Airbnb. It was from CNBC, a report that they filled out where they said, I can't remember how many trillions of dollars, but they were saying by not having Blacks in the travel space or just not opening your business to Black people in America, you're missing out on a couple $1 trillion. Now, if we take that into like mentally like listen to that, just a few months ago, the government gave a trillion and something away to people to help them with a $1,400 increase if they met a certain metric. We're talking about people that already exist in our country that have that same amount of money, if not more, that can be added to you on an annual basis. So if you're thinking about it in those terms, like I do, like that's recovery every year that I can be getting at. So like I said, more opportunity for folks like us who are opening up our places to diversified travelers.
In a way, I feel like the diverse thinking, that line of thought, is almost an untapped niche unto itself.
Absolutely.
Like it represents a very much a minority of the average vacation rental professional. And I would clarify that by saying it's not that they don't want to be diverse. It's like not that they're necessarily racist, although there are plenty of racists out there. It's more like they have never even thought about it. They never even thought about the fact that their vacation rental photos, lifestyle photos, only feature people of one look. They never thought about the fact that they're people of different backgrounds on their team are never actually even woven into the forward-facing business. They're never even reflected in the forward-facing brand. I think a lot of folks, if they just start thinking about it a little bit more deliberately, they can make a significant change. And of course, by coming out and proclaiming it, that's a whole next level.
Yes, absolutely. So tell people who are thinking about what you just said to go to my website, which is pcsatease.com. Not a plug, but I just want to touch that. And if they click through each of the menu tabs, and this is just like our basic website, they'll see that I was very deliberate about being all welcoming and trying to make sure that everybody's like, we got a mom with her kids, we got a dad and his kids, like we got Hispanic, Asian, Black, white. We didn't want, me personally, I didn't want a representation on my website that wasn't true to what my family looks like. Like my wife is from the islands, and then we have my sister-in-law, she's white. Then I got a cousin who's Russian, and I got cousins who are Asian from I think Japan or something like that, or Korea. And I said the photos that we represent have to look like my family. And I think others should do the same thing. To your point, Matt, is take down some of the photos that are just one demographic of people, or just take down the photos of people and just show the house more, and just make sure that the house is accessible to anybody and everybody.
And I do want to just add in there that you are also a very handsome bald man representing the bald demographic. Yeah, that's important to me.
Thank you. I grew some hair over the break, so I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Anthony, any wish for the future of the vacation rental movement as we depart here and I leave you on your merry way?
Yes, Matt. A wish that I have is that more people would take a more deliberate approach to getting involved in their local communities, to advocate for the space, to advocate on laws and rules that make sense to the community. Because as you and I know, we've been seeing some things out of California and Atlanta, Georgia, and Washington, D.C. that are just counterproductive to being a regular person and owning a property, but even more so to being in a vacation rental space. So we have to be our own advocates in this space and talk to those people who are elected officials and tell them to make laws that make sense.
What a powerful message to end on. It applies to every single one of us, no matter what community we live in. After today's conversation with Anthony, I found myself thinking about a couple specific action items, and I wanted to present them to you in the form of 3 discovery questions. The first, what's a pain that you or maybe some of your friends have as travelers when searching for a vacation rental option? What's that moment when you say, I just couldn't find a property to fit XYZ needs? Maybe it's near sports tournaments. Maybe it's properties with a cook's kitchen. Maybe it's properties on the water with a dock because you've got a boat. This is the first way to carving out your niche in any space. And the potential is especially large when it comes to vacation rentals. Question 2. Can you prove or validate that pain that you or your friends experience with booking? Consider using a Google form and creating a simple survey. Share it with groups on Facebook. Remember, you don't need millions of people to answer this survey. You just need a handful of the ones who fit your profile. Reach out to individual VRBO or Airbnb listings and see if they can or can't satisfy this particular need. Question 3, do your photos or your vacation rental website as a whole? Does it visually represent the colors, shapes, and sizes of the mainstream traveling public? How are you catering to what Anthony and I referred to as perhaps the most untapped niche of all? Underrepresented groups who don't necessarily feel included or welcomed when they travel. If you'd like to dive into any of these questions with me, alongside nearly 1,000 of the world's most creative vacation rental professionals, all under one virtual roof, head over to community.vrmb.com. We're always looking for new members who are looking to grow together.